Welcome back. The channel's name is now AG Consulting. My name is Aaron Green, and I am a licensed Strata manager. And this is the Strata Management BC series that I'm doing on the AG Consulting channel. In this series, I explain how strata corporations operate for owners and council members. And please remember, this is just general advice, not legal advice. If you need legal advice, please seek legal counsel. Moving on, so this is Strata Management BC Episode 5, Strata Bylaws Explained. Bylaws are often misunderstood or not known about. They're not just rules, they provide legal framework, and they are legally enforceable, and they're backed by the Strata Property Act. And this video covers all angles of bylaws. So getting right into it, what are bylaws? A set of bylaws is what governs the Strata Corporation for owners, tenants, guests, and occupants. They're legally enforceable, as I said, and they apply to everyone. There are generally your default standard bylaws or scheduled standard of bylaws, and those exist because of Section 119 of the Strata Property Act, which says that strata corporations must have bylaws. And I'll be putting that up on the screen for you, where they came from, where these bylaws came from. Again, the authority is the Strata Property Act, like I said. They can be amended or added by owners, Section 126 of the Strata Property Act. But again, highly recommended that the law firm writes the bylaws to ensure enforceability and reduce any risk of litigation. Amendments and additions to the bylaws is only permitted with a 3/4 vote at a general meeting or special general meeting, annual general meeting or special general meeting. And if they're passed, they're only actually enforceable and official once they're deposited into the land title office. What bylaws cover? So bylaws or strata bylaws cover noise and nuisances, and that's covered in Standard Bylaw 3, use of property. Bylaws also cover pets, parking, rentals, short-term and long-term. Smoking, although the Tobacco and Vapor Products Control Act really does provide for more restrictions regarding smoking near strata corporations, because they're generally most strata corporations are your multi-unit residential properties. Bylaws also cover renovations, so whether or not you're going to need the strata council approval in writing before you can proceed with a certain type of renovation within your strata lot. Some things are permitted to do without written permission and some things require it, so definitely check your specific strata bylaws. Bylaws regulate or cover common property use. Then they are the governance of the strata corporation, so they control what owners are entitled to. And Section 36 is something where owners can use. And then how owner or council members must operate, which is Section 31, a council member's standard of care, which kind of means that they have to operate with the best intentions at heart and a good standard of care, which means due diligence, getting multiple quotes, and ensuring that they're not wasting the money of owners who have elected them to be on the council. Strata bylaws and your Strata Property Act cover hearings. Section 31.4 of the Strata Property Act, where owners can request hearings for any reason, really. And then also there's always an opportunity to request a hearing if you are alleged to have violated a bylaw. So that way, and during that process, you'll be able to request a hearing. We'll cover that later on. And another thing that the bylaws, or mainly the Strata Property Act, kind of covers is how information must be shared from the Strata Corporation to owners and available to owners. Bylaws versus rules. So bylaws are stronger, so they come with higher fines. Your standard bylaw 23 starts with the fines at $50 and rules at $10 fines. but generally the developer, it's like a standard practice for all developers now. They know to increase those fines to $200 and $50 for bylaws, $200 and $50 for fines. And that's just obviously because $50 and $10 is really not a lot. So someone might just decide to continue violating a bylaw because that penalty is just not great enough for them to change their behavior. $250 is probably $200 and $50 is probably enough to probably result in a change of behavior because no one wants to continue to fork out that money. Rules need ratification. So council members can make rules during the year, and those are enforceable until you get to a general meeting, and then they must be ratified at the general meeting or they cease to be enforceable. Bylaws override rules. So if there's a rule and a bylaw that conflict each other, the bylaw is always going to be the prevailing governing piece of legislation, or the whatever. The bylaws are stronger. Sorry. Bylaws are previously mentioned, as I previously mentioned, require approval at a general meeting by a 3/4 vote as well to be changed or amended or something like that. Why bylaws exist. So they help protect the strata property values. So even your unit, the bylaws help to protect the value of your unit. And examples of that is just guaranteeing, actually, you know what, we're getting into it. Yeah, because the big things is bylaws guarantee safety so that the strata corporation can provide maintenance, which is another one. Repair of property, section 32. Strata corporation must repair and maintain common area and assets. And the strata bylaws may exist to alter that to some degree, but otherwise section 72 is generally how the strata corporation's responsibility regarding common areas and assets is going to be laid out. And then bylaws exist again for insurance, to protect the situation, for insurance for all owners. Enforcement process. So this is going to be one for some people. They might be interested in this section for sure. So enforcement or options, I will put section 129 of the Strata Property Act on the screen for you, but the options for enforcement are fine, remedy the issue, and impose the cost back to the owner or tenant that has caused the violation and caused them to need to remedy the issue. And then the other option is to deny access to a recreational facility. So if your strata corporation has like a pool or a hot tub or a gym or something like that, then they could potentially deny your access. So the process goes like this. A complaint is received. Generally written notice is given to the owners. It's actually required, or the person that has been alleged to violate a bylaw, they need to receive a written notice, and then they have the opportunity to respond to the notice within 20 days. And then again, like I said earlier in the video, you can also request a hearing through this process as well within those 20 days. And then one part about the hearing process, and I will put that one up on the screen. The council must schedule a meeting to hold your hearing within 28 days of your request. And then once you've had the hearing, you, if you're looking for a written decision or something from the council, they must provide that within 7 days in writing as well. And then once that has happened, they might actually, at the hearing, they hear you out. They might still decide that they're going to fine you. So that's when they'll let you, they're going to decide to either fine or provide a warning this time, let you go with just a warning. And they need to also provide that information to you in writing as well. So after hearing, they'd be like, hi, so-and-so, thank you for attending the meeting and providing your side of the story. The council has still decided to proceed with the fine of $200 for violating such and such bylaw. Moving on to common misunderstandings. Didn't know does not really help you out here. Section 119 of the Strata Property Act kind of covers that. It's you have to follow it. So they still applies. Others do it is not valid as well. Just because others do it doesn't mean that it's permitted. And hopefully they're also receiving a fine or a bylaw violation warning, but regardless, that doesn't matter. Can't ignore. That's something that the council can't do. They can't ignore the bylaw violations, so they do have a standard of care like we were talking about, Section 31 of the Strata Property Act, and that means that they need to enforce the bylaws of the Strata Corporation. And then not optional. Bylaws, again, are just not optional. They're something that you must abide by. Otherwise, there's going to be violations and then likely fines, and then other options may be applied after a while as well. Where problems happen, inconsistent enforcement. This goes back to that council member's standard of care. They really need to ensure a consistent enforcement. If they're fining someone for something, they need to be fining everyone for that thing within the same consistency, right? So if they gave you a warning, then it happened again, and they said they're going to fine you this time, then they need to do that to everyone. They need to give them a warning, and if it happens again, they get a fine. Outdated bylaws is a big one. And the big one right now is long-term rental restrictions, for the most part, do not apply and are no longer enforceable. And a lot of strata corporations likely still have some long-term rental restriction bylaws that, again, are likely not enforceable anymore, because basically it's long-term tenant or rental is anything over a month. Actually, don't quote me on that. I can't remember exactly, but again, there's the long-term rental restriction bylaws. A lot of them are no longer enforceable, so check into that. And then the recent legislation, I think it's Bill 44, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I should have known this, and I'll try to, maybe I can throw it up on the screen during this section of the meeting or of the call. So sorry there. Overreach is another time where problems happen. So you can have councils or the bylaws being a little too restrictive and a little too or the council being a bit too strict with them, and that can really cause some problems. There is some form of the legislation says that council can't be unreasonable or unfair or significantly unfair to a certain owner, and so that's where that can arise. And then another big one is just owners don't read the bylaws, so they're not aware of what is permitted, what's not, so that can also obviously cause problems. Great real examples of this. Noise is a huge one, as I mentioned, and I did put up standard bylaw 3, which is use of property, earlier on in this video. And that one kind of covers noise to a general degree. If your noise is creating a nuisance for another person or another owner at another strata lot within the strata corporation, that's going to be a problem. All owners have a right to peaceful enjoyment of their strata lot. So if you are infringing upon that, then there are likely going to be issues for you. Pets is usually a big one. So a lot of your bylaws are going to allow up to 2 pets, 1 cat or 1 dog, or 2 dogs and or 2 cats. However, there's many strata corporations that have added additional bylaws to this standard bylaw. I've seen ones where it's up to a certain weight is a bylaw, like less than, I think it was 35 kilos in this particular strata corporation situation. And then I've seen other ones where certain types are not permitted, like I'm not even going to list them, but so they're just, if you have pets, check your bylaws. If you're looking into purchasing a strata property, check the bylaws, make sure that it's all good. Ask the realtor if you're using a realtor. They should be able to find out that information for you and confirm it. But personally, I'd love to see that in writing myself. So again, just getting the bylaws of the strata property or the strata corporation that you are considering purchasing in is a great first step for when you're considering purchasing a strata property. And if you ever need any specific information about that, my website, A&G Consulting, you can send in a form, and I can certainly look into helping you with specific information regarding purchasing or selling a strata property. Where were we? Parking is another big one that is generally an issue. There's either not enough parking or a poor use of visitor parking or lots of other reasons of just people poorly parking or taking other people's spots. Lots of different things can come up with parking, but generally your bylaws will cover some form of what's supposed to happen or what the stipulations are for parking. So definitely check that if you're concerned that something might be going on with the parking. Renovations is a big one. You need to obtain approval before altering your strata lot, and it needs to be written approval, and that is standard bylaw 5. I'll put that up on the screen for you. It doesn't cover everything. Like I said, you can paint your walls generally without it requiring approval, but if you're cutting into the drywall, then there's a good chance it might need approval. Actually, not completely, but big ones are any kind of electrical, plumbing, flooring. Those ones are likely going to require the Strata Council's written approval to proceed with those kind of alterations. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier with whereas protecting the safety and property value and insurance purposes is why you need to obtain approval before altering a strata lot, depending again what you're doing. And I will have the standard bylaw 5 up there for you for a quick read to see if you're interested in that. And then another big one is smoking, but as I covered in the earlier, the tobacco, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head exactly, but that one really provides additional restrictions more so than the strata bylaws really need to. And then also smoking or tobacco smoke is considered a nuisance to those that do not smoke it. So that generally means that standard bylaw 3 is going to apply for smoking, and generally you're just not going to be able to smoke in common, or actually the Tobacco Act says you can't smoke on common area or common property, which again generally just means that in a strata corporation smoking is not permitted on the property. Advice for owners: read your bylaws, please. That helps for sure. That's the big one, to just be aware of your bylaws, know what you can and can't do without getting permission or approval. Ask before acting. That's always a good one. Your strata manager should be able to answer questions for you. But again, big recommendation is just get the strata bylaws. Hopefully you have it in a PDF format or something on your computer. You can control F and then you can type a certain word that you're looking for, and it, as long as you're using the right kind of word, or maybe you try a couple 3 different words that might be relating to the same kind of situation, you're likely to find whatever bylaws have any kind of restriction or stipulation over what you're looking for. So read your bylaws and then ask for a set of bylaws. If you don't have them, they should be readily available to you. Submit your requests for alterations requests. Don't just do it. A big one there, actually, yeah, because if you do it and come to find out that it's not approved, if the council, if it's serious enough, and a great one for me that I can think of right off the top of my head is flooring. So if you alter the flooring, you don't put proper underlay underneath the flooring, the Strata Corporation can require you to completely uninstall all of that flooring and then put down proper relay or underlay and then put it back down if you want to, or they can just require that you return it back to the original state prior to the alteration. So that's why it's very, very important for you to get your alteration approved if their approval is required. Don't go ahead and do it first. It's highly recommended that you get approval before you proceed with that one. And then if you ever receive a bylaw violation warning or something like that and you're confused about it, it doesn't really make sense to you, or you're whatever it is, surprised, have questions, use your right to the council hearing. Ask for that council hearing, or you can just send in the written response with all your questions and maybe an apology for what's happened. And you can, at the end of the day, you can still say that, oh, I didn't know, but I realized it's the bylaw. Oh no, I'm so sorry, kind of thing. And you might get some kind of remorse, and depending on what their standard practice is, what they've done before, they might provide you some leniency for the first time or even the second time. Advice for council, like this kind of ties into what I was just talking about. Be consistent. This goes back to Strata Property Act Section 31, which is the council member's standard of care. So it needs to be a standardized care across the board. If someone's getting fined for something, it needs to be the same process for everyone else after that. So that means if they got a warning and then they got the fine, that's how it should work. If they got basically a warning saying they're going to get fined if the behavior doesn't change, and the behavior changed before they got fined, then that's how it should be processed for the next person. So just be consistent with whatever you do. Big difficulty with that one though too is like council is not always going to be the same from year to year. They have to change over. So that's where you kind of try to rely on your strata management company, but again, they might change from time to time as well. So hard to stay super consistent. So tracking what you do and how you do it is a great way of doing that. But I do caution really having a policy that's public to everyone, because then you're also beholden to that policy and there's no way that you can have any leniency one way or another for any contributing factors to the situation at hand. So just as be consistent as possible, especially during your term and while you're on council, and then after that, not your issue. Be reasonable is another one, big time there. Don't just the bylaws. Yes, you have a duty to enforce them, but also you have a duty to be reasonable. Your council member's standard of care again. So just use your best judgment. If you have other council members that are objecting to what you're suggesting or doing, but there's still a majority to go for it, maybe everyone should take a step back and think about it a bit more to understand maybe why there's any objection at all before you proceed, to ensure that you are being reasonable. And then communication, clear and concise, is huge. Communicate clearly to the owners. Provide as much feedback or provide as much updates. If there's something big going on, it always helps to just give as much information out there as possible. Being transparent certainly helps. And don't overreach. So again, just don't be too strict. Don't police the bylaws. That's not your job. Again, your job is to enforce them. So if someone else complains, then at that point you have to do something, but you're not elected to council to make sure everyone's following the bylaws to an absolute maximum and that they're never getting breached, because that's just not reasonable or feasible. People are going to make mistakes or forget about things from time to time, or just, I'm just going to be in this spot for 2 minutes, so whatever, right? But obviously that can be a bad issue, or that's a bad example. But again, just don't overreach with your bylaws. Don't enforce them too much. And just, again, the big key one here for council is be consistent and be reasonable. Bylaws are not about control. They're about shared responsibility, and they provide a legal structure to protect that shared responsibility of all owners. That's the idea there. And then what I would love to hear from you guys is what your most frustrating bylaw is. What do you find, or what bylaw do you find that you're not happy with or you'd like to see change? I'd love to hear about that. And then if you've ever been fined, share your story, or you can comment or send in a request at AG Consulting to ask me if that was the proper way for them to go about it, or if you have any questions. And then for council, was it fair or not fair? And the owners, are they being fair not to you? Let me know what you're thinking, and I'd love to cover it. If there was something not covered in this episode, please let me know, and we can do it on the next one. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or topics that you would like covered in a future episode, please comment below, and visit my AG Consulting website if you're looking for assistance. The link will be in the video description. Thank you so much, and see you next time.